Hello, crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSaysStamp.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana episode. One of the things I love to do the most when creating handmade cards is using my stamps in a non-conventional, non-intended way. I love to take images from several completely different sets and bring them together on a card in a way that they tell a story. In this video, I'll show you how I pull images from various stamp sets in my stash to create a unique Christmas card. So here's my plan and my layout for this project. The base image here is the convertible from the Tie the Knot stamp set. Now, this is not a Christmas set, yet I'm using it to make a Christmas card. I'm going to take this card and decorate it with various Christmas imagery to make it work for a Christmas project. So this stamp set has a just married banner that can go on the back of the car. I'm going to replace that with a string of Christmas lights from an older stamp set from Simon. This is the Winter Scene set. It's one of my favorites, all-time favorite sets from Simon. Next, my car will hold a pretty large gift, and that comes from the gift wrap stamp set. I'll be using this gift stamp for this card, along with a little poinsettia image. And by the way, I have a completely different card idea featuring this exact stamp set on my blog. Here's a project photo. Do check it out if you'd like to see more information on this card. Now, I also have a Christmas tree sticking out from the back of the car. And this one, although I didn't use this particular tree, so this tree comes from the Merry Christmas Trees stamp set. I also pre-planned a sentiment for this card, and it comes from the Good Cheer stamp set from Cassie Zilski. I have the sentiments placed above and below my vehicle. So that's the idea and the plan for this project. And you can take pretty much any stamp set that you have in your stash, and with a little bit of tweaking, you can make it work for a different occasion. In this case, I'm tweaking a wedding card to work for a Christmas card. Now, the same card could be tweaked for a birthday card, for a Thanksgiving card, for a Valentine's Day card, and so much more. And also other images. You'll need to look for some probably larger image from your stash, so other images can be tweaked to suit a different occasion. Once you have the elements picked out, you'll need to stamp the images and color them. Now, I am a fan of Copic marker coloring, so I did my stamping in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I heat set the images with clear embossing powder to make the ink alcohol marker proof, and then I colored the images with Copics. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the marker colors and the coloring techniques that I used in case you'd like to recreate this card in the future. On the Simon Says Stamp website, you can find some amazing examples of how this little convertible can be colored. One of the examples inspired me to try a different type of coloring, a different technique. The idea is to color with the darkest marker, not right next to the edge, not right next to the black line, but step away from the edge and color about 1/8 of an inch away, leaving a small gap that, once finished, would work as a natural highlight. This is an amazing technique and one that gives very lifelike results. Now, I'm just trying this technique out for the very first time, and I can already see myself using it again and again in the future. Once I was done coloring my little convertible, I really loved the result. Now, I went with a light blue, red, cherry green, and white color combination for this project. I wanted to have a red convertible, so I colored the car red using R27, R24, R22, and R20 markers. And these are my all-time favorite go-to colors for a red color combo. I also used a C9, C7 for the wheels, and then C7, C5, and C3 for the exhaust pipes. and then C5, C3, and C1 for the bumper. I also colored the seats in the windshield for my car, but these ended up being completely covered by the gift in the trees, so you might as well skip coloring them and just leave them white. Now, I used a pale blue and blue-green colors to color the gift, and I went with BG32, BG11, and B000. The tag was colored red, and so was colored the ribbon red. I also later added some little white diagonal lines or detail to the ribbon using a Sakura number 8 white jelly roll pen to make my ribbon a little bit more fancy. As for the trees, I planned to use just one tree at first, but I wasn't really sure which one I liked best, so I ended up cutting out, and actually using both trees. Now I colored the trees using YG17, YG03, and YG01 markers, and I call this a cheery green color combo. Now lastly, the Christmas lights on the string were colored using the same light blue and the same light green markers to coordinate with the rest of the colors. I then cut all of these out using coordinating dies, and I set them aside as I worked on a license plate for my convertible. The stamp set with the car comes with several sentiments to be used as a license plate, but they, of course, aren't seasonal, they're more wedding geared. I stamped a season's greetings sentiment and used the coordinating rounded rectangle die to cut it out. Now, since this sentiment is longer, I did some partial cutting. Now, it's not hard to do. If you've never done partial die cutting before, the trick is to not cover the entire die with a cutting plate like so. See how my top cutting plate is not covering the entire surface of the die? I do not want the edge to be cut, so I shifted my top plate. Once you have that, run it through your die cutting machine and you have yourself a custom cutout. Now there's one more tweak that we need to make. I want to insert the gift in the Christmas trees into the convertible. And to do this, I need to make an incision with a craft knife. I'm cutting just under the windshield and under the seats, creating a slit, a small slit to insert the elements into, just like so. Now the slit is a little too narrow, so I'm just going to extend it a little bit further like so. And I'm doing that on both sides. And now I can just add the gift and add my Christmas trees into the car. I foam mounted the license plate. I love to add dimension to my projects, and I always use foam adhesive. I feel like it sort of breathes life into my cards. And I also foam mounted the lights string. I actually debated placing the light string slightly at an angle, but I ended foam mounting them in the center. And then I added the little poinsettia on top of the gift. Next, I planned the element placement and stamped the sentiments in VersaFine Onyx Black ink onto Simon's Sea Glass cardstock panel. Now, I love this particular cardstock color for Christmas cards. It makes the perfect light blue background, especially if you want to add some white snow on top, and that's exactly what my plan for this card was. This is the perfect shade of blue. It's not too light, yet it's not too dark. And when you add something white on top of it, it really pops. And that's just perfect for a Christmas project. I used a white pen. Now, this is a Storytime paint pen from Jane Davenport. You can use any wide white pen that you have in your stash and just draw some snow under the tires of the car. Not a lot, just a little bit, just to add interest to the background. Now, at first, I planned to simply foam mount this car onto the background, and you can see I've added foam adhesive squares to the back. But later, I remembered that I had these awesome action wobbles in my stash. I happen to love them, and it's funny, I actually only use them for Christmas projects. I haven't used one this year yet, so I figured now was the perfect time to give one of those wobblers a go. Now, if you don't know what the wobbler is, what this particular wobbler is, it is basically a plastic spring that allows you to add movement and interactivity to your projects. You just stick one end of the spring onto your die kit and then stick another end of the spring onto the background, and voila, you have a movable object on your card. It adds so much cuteness and so much fun. And every time I give someone a card with an interactive element like this, made using an action wobbler, they just cannot stop playing with it. And I mean adults, not kids. Okay, let's go back to the background. I wanted to add more snow to this card, especially I wanted to add snow to the title. Here, I added tested snow to the Ho 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 stamped sentiment, and I stamped it on another panel just to test it, and that worked well. So I proceeded to add snow onto my card. I used the same pen. Now, you want the pen to be slightly on the drier side, so not too saturated with ink, and you want the end of the pen to be slightly frayed. I simply drew snow on each letter, and the somewhat fuzzy end of this pen created a very fluffy look of snow, making it very realistic. This is a pretty old pen in my stash, and a pen that I use very often, and not just for card making. I even use it to fix some clothing if I have to. If I have a leather belt that's white and I have a little scratch on it, I use this pen for that. So the end of the pen, the tip, the nib of the pen is kind of frayed. And that's what gives this card a very fuzzy, very snow-like look. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Anyhow, I love the result. And I also added snow dots onto the background of this card, creating the look of falling snow. Finally, I coated the brake lights and then the Christmas lights with glossy accents to add a little bit more dimension and shine. I hope you will give this idea a try. If you make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We always enjoy seeing what you make. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!